Hi, April. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Hi, Christy. How are you?
I am great. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. I'm excited.
Now, today we're going to talk about all things websites, and we're going to give everybody listening tons of actionable takeaways that they can use to either build or improve their websites. But before we do that, can you tell us a little bit more about how you started before you became the website guru and exactly what it is that you do now?
Yeah, you bet. So I kind of have an interesting backstory. I have three kids, and my youngest two have some mental health struggles. And so when they were teenagers and I was trying to find them help, I went online and I searched and I searched and I searched, and I could not find what I needed for them. Like I searched for months and could not find the help that I needed. And so eventually I was talking with a friend and she said, "Well, hey, have you heard of this company?" And I said, "Well, no, I haven't. Let me go look them up online." So I did. And they had a horrible website, like horrible, way back in the blog spot days. And there was nothing on it. And so I looked and I said, and so then I saw her a few days later and she's like, "Hey, did you check out this company?" And I said, "I did, but I don't think they're what I'm looking for. Like, that's just not what I'm looking for." And she's like, "No, it is. I promise you, you need to call them because this is exactly what you're looking for." And I thought, okay, I know you and I trust you. So I will give them a call. So I did. I called and they really were exactly what I was looking for. And my children got the help they needed. They had like programs for moms and they had all this cool stuff. And so I started working with them just in that realm. And while I was doing that, I thought, you guys need a better website because I would have never found you if somebody hadn't told me who you were. And I'd never built a website before. I'd never done it. And so I said, really, you guys need something better. And they said, okay, go ahead. Why don't you do it? And I was like, oh, I meant somebody else do that. Like you need a better website, but that wasn't going to be me. And they said, no, really, who else? Like, you know what people are looking for. You're a mom. You knew what people needed to hear and what they needed to see and read or whatever. So really, you're the best person to do it. So if you could go figure that out, then we will hire you to build our website. So I did. And I went through like tons of courses and learned lots of stuff and whatever. And turns out this particular business had like 10 different programs and, lots of stuff. So this one little project turned into a big project. And then they had more people that got referred to me. And so I found in doing that I loved it. I thought, wow, why have I not been doing this my whole life? I totally love this. And so anyway, one thing turned into another, and I just kept learning and learning and built a business out of it. And 6 years later, here I am. So there we
I
go.
love that. That's amazing. So rather than hiring a web designer to build a website for their ideal customer, they had their ideal customer build them a website.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. Yeah, because I knew what moms were looking for and I knew what was missing and what I wasn't finding when I was searching the internet. So they're like, yeah, you're the perfect person, to put on there what people are looking for because you know exactly what it is.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So now you have a range of clients and you do a range of services on building websites, right?
Yes, I do. I work mostly with service-based businesses, to be honest with you, simply because, in all honesty, I can build the product-based ones. I just don't like it. It's more tedious. And where I was in the service realm. My kids needed counselors, they needed help. And so that's just the area that I've specialized in. But the basics for building a website, no matter what your business is, are pretty much the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And we'll dig into that too. Before we dig into your web genius, I think a good place to start is to explain why it's important, although you did a little bit there with your story, why it's important to have a website and not just social media links. And we talked about this before. I do a whole thing on one of our live trainings where I don't care what business you're in, you need a web presence. Even if you never sell a thing online, you need, because that's the first thing people do is they go to your site to check you out. It needs to look professional. It doesn't have to be 100 pages. It can be one page, but it needs to look good and it needs to give them information, right? It's
Right?
one of my pet peeves because they get overwhelmed, right? They think they need like the $20,000 website and they don't, but they need something, right? So why do you say that it's important to have not just social media links?
Well, the biggest thing is you don't own your social media. So they can shut you down anytime you want. The other problem with just social media is scrolling. Like people, if they find your Facebook page and they follow you or whatever, they're sitting on their phone, they're sitting at the doctor's office or, wherever, and they're scrolling through it and they see something, they're like, oh, okay. And they just keep scrolling. But if they really want to get to know you, they're going to go to your website and check you out. I mean, if we and you said this, Christy, if we think about how we do things, when somebody says, "Hey, you should really go try this thing," or even if a friend recommends a business to you, what is the very first thing you do? You don't go to Facebook or Instagram and look them up. You go to their website first. That's almost always the first thing that we do when we're trying to find out about a business. So that's where, I mean, it is the face of your business online. That's where people find you, they find out about you, they find out your services. And then, yeah, you want to have social media, but you always want to direct people back to your website because, again, you own it. You decide what goes on there. You don't have, Facebook people telling you what can go on there and what can't go on there. And it's a place to send people. If somebody says, "Hey, Christy, what do you do?" You can say, "Hey, I do this amazing thing. Here, go check out my website." And then they can go look you up right away.
And I know if somebody, and I run across them sometimes too, where people just have their social media, it feels like they're not really serious about the business, right? Like it's kind of their one foot in, one foot out. They haven't got around to doing a website yet. And in reality, they could have a site or at least a landing page, in a day. Uh,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you don't I mean, I'm a website designer, but you don't have to hire me to create your website. You really can. There's so many non-coding page builder things out there. Get something up and then yeah, it just doesn't look professional. You don't look like a real business if you don't have a website.
yeah, agreed. So, what should every website have at the bare minimum? What elements should we have?
So I'm going to talk about five specific things that every website should include. And then after that, I'll talk a little bit about some of the pages that people should have. And again, you can have a one page website. That's totally fine. And then if you do it in a one page website, so when I get to the point that I talk about pages, just know you can have sections in your website as people scroll down. So I'm going to start first with the five things that your website should include. And the number one is a clear hero section. And let me tell you what a hero section is. So, a hero section is the very first thing that people see when they get to your website. So, they get on their computer or they get on their phone, they type in your website address. What's that very first part that pops up at the top of the page? And I mean, that is prime real estate right there. That's the first thing people are going to see. So make it count. Like make sure that that has the information on it that people are going to need to know. So I call it the 5-second test. When somebody gets to your website, do they know who you help, how you help them, how it benefits them, and what they're supposed to do in the first 5 seconds? So they get there and they look and they're like, "Oh, I'm looking for an accountant who helps me with my taxes." And so then they look at the website and they go, "Yep, this is an accountant and she does personal taxes and she'll help me with my LLC. Yep, this is the person I this is the right website." If I get there and it says like, I don't know, something like "turn your money into cash tomorrow." I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for. And then I'll move to the next website or something else. So 5 seconds. And the best way to do this test is to find a person who's never looked at your website before. Pull it up, let him look at it literally for 5 seconds on a screen, and then turn the screen away and ask them, "Hey, what do I do? Can you tell me what my business is?" And then, if you wanted to work with me, what are you supposed to do? So just ask them those basic questions and you'll know really fast if you have a clear hero section. And remember, you can't scroll. That's the thing. Like they have to be able to get there and not scroll and be able to answer those questions. So that's number one, a clear hero section. Number two kind of goes along with the hero section is make sure that you have an obvious call to action. Like, what is somebody supposed to do when they get on your site? Because if they get there and you don't tell them, they don't know. They're like, "Oh, well, this is interesting. Huh, she's a really cool accountant. Nice. Okay, moving on." And then they'll just go to the next one because you didn't tell them how to get a hold of you or what they were supposed to do or whatever. So make sure you tell people what to do. And that could be something simple. Like if you're, for example, if you're a coaching business, a lot of times people aren't going to be ready to sign up for your coaching right away. They don't know you. They don't know anything about you. They don't trust you yet. So give them something else to do. This is a really good place to put your freebie or your lead magnet right in the beginning. Give them something simple and then they can start to get to know you. You can nurture them through your emails. So your call to action can be something really simple, like your lead magnet. That's what mine is. You go to my website, the very first thing, you're going to see a lead magnet. You're going to see to opt into that because I get it. You don't know me. You don't trust me. You don't know anything about me. So I'm not going to jump right to, hey, let's go spend a whole bunch of money with April and have her build my website. It's going to be more like, let's find out about her and see who she is first. And then let me see if I want to work with her or not. So anyway, have an obvious call to action.
And it's got to be that first small next step that they're going to be comfortable with. Got it.
Right. Yeah. So something simple. All right. Number 3, be sure to tell people what services you offer. Don't assume that people can guess that because you're an accountant that you do taxes. Like, I know that you would think, oh, that's so obvious, but it's really not obvious all the time. So I work with a lot of coaches and therapists and kind of in that realm. But one of the mistakes I see often is people up in their little 5-second session will say, hi, I'm a life coach. Okay, what does that mean? Like, that doesn't tell me anything. I have a life. I don't need a coach. Like, and so that's what I'm thinking. I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't need a coach. I'm good. But maybe I'm struggling in my marriage. And so you could say, I'm a relationship coach who helps people in their marriage. And so then the services that you offer are coaching, or you offer a course, or you offer like a group coaching program, or you offer a workshop, or you offer like, what are the services that you offer that are specific to what it is that you do? So just tell people what you do and the services you offer so they know, okay, if I work with this person, these are the things that I can do for them.
Yeah. And use the language that they would use, right? So that they recognize it. We tend to use industry jargon sometimes or words that we're familiar with that may not resonate. Just like you said, if I see life coach, I may not know exactly what that means, but if you spell it out for me, what you're doing in my own words, then it's a lot easier to connect. Okay.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's gonna be one of the don'ts I talk about too, but yeah, that jargon and words and like I see that really often. Somebody will say something, I'm like, I don't know what that means. And I find myself doing it. Okay, so I'm in the website world and I'll say SEO and people are like, "What is SEO again? Like, what does that mean?" So I have to catch myself too. Like it's something we all have to look at. So for sure. All right, number 4, visually display the success of your customer. So I'll give you an example really quick and then, anyway, I'll tell you what that means. But I went to a website and the gal she called herself a gut coach. Like she helps you with like stomach pain or whatever. And every picture was like people doubled over in pain, like hunched over. And I was like, well, I don't want that. Like, because the first thing you see when you get to the website is you see before you read. Like the images are going to click in your head. Your brain's going to see the images before you actually read the text. And so I just like glanced at the website and I thought, oh my gosh, all those people are in so much pain. Like,
I don't know what a gut coach is, but I don't want it.
right. Yeah. I'm like, I have that pain, but I don't want any more. Those people are way worse off than I am. Like, no way. So make sure you include images of your customers having success. Like you could have a before and after, you could have had with like this lady that helped with, gut pain. You could have a before, but make sure you have a really big after. So, just show your clients having success because remember, people are going to see before they read. And the reality is, not everybody's going to read everything on your website. There's a lot of words and they're going to scan it and they're not going to read it all, but they will see the pictures. So make sure you have really good pictures. And just a little tip, since I'm really big on this, if you're looking for images, there are like several websites that you can get stock photos for free. Just make sure they're royalty free and able to use on a commercial website. But 3 of my favorites are Unsplash. So Unsplash, unsplash.com, Pexels, and it's PEXELS.com, and Pixabay. So PIXABAY.com. Those are my three go-tos. There's like 6 or 7 others out there, but they're all free. They're free to download. You can get different sizes. You can change them up. You can, and there's tons and tons of images. So what you don't want to do is go to Google and find one you like and copy it. Don't ever do that. Go to a place where you can get the free ones.
For so many reasons, for copyright issues, for image quality, for all the reasons. Yeah, I really like Unsplash. I use that one a lot too. It's because it's got really artsy kind of looking photos sometimes. Yeah. Good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Unsplash is awesome. It's one of my favorites. So anyway. All right. And then the number 5 is make sure that you tell people how they can hire you, how they can contact you. I've gone to a lot of websites. There's no contact information. I look on it and I think, oh, this is awesome. Yeah, this is great. I want to talk to this person. Where is it? I can't find it. There are some places that are intuitive. So a couple of tips. One, when you put your contact information in there, make sure it's in a place that's intuitive. Either at the very top of your website, you can have it front and center at the top, or you can have a contact page, or also at the very bottom, and you can put it in both places. Don't feel like you can only put it in one or the other. And then give people steps. So as they're scrolling through your website and they're on, maybe section 3 or 4, and they're like, yeah, you know what? I really like this. This is, I want to hire this accountant today. What do I do next? So give them steps. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Tell them exactly what they're supposed to do every step of the way. Don't think people will figure it out, because we're all lazy when we get on websites. At the end of the day, we always just want somebody to tell us what to do. Just make it easy for me. Tell me how to contact you. Tell me what to do to hire you. Just 1, 2, 3, tell me what I'm supposed to do and what's coming next. And that's it. Your website doesn't have to look perfect, but if I know what I'm supposed to do, I'm there. I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And, and people, they take in information differently, right? Because some people will read a lot of the text and
Mhm.
like I'm a scanner. So I'm going to read the headlines and I'm going to infer from that what I need to know as well. So to have that information it presented both ways, I think is important too, right? To have the headlines really hit the a summary of the information that's under it so that people can scan through, because I will scan right through to the bottom. And if I didn't get the information I needed, I might go back, I might not.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And you know what? Another thing you can do to help with the scanning is you can bold certain phrases. So if you want to have, like you said, Christy, you want to have the headlines on there that most people will read the headlines and then they'll kind of scan through the rest. But if you've bolded out certain words in the paragraphs below, almost guaranteed people will see what's bolded just because their eye is drawn to it. And then another thing, this is just a little tip since we're on that, but when you put images next to text, make sure the images are pointing to the text. If you have a person that's looking a certain direction, so if they're looking to the right, make sure the words are to the right. You're kind of directing where their eyes go. And sometimes what I've had to do is like flip the image. There are, I don't know, different places online you can do, it's all free. But if you find an image that's technically pointing the wrong way, just flip the image around and then you have it pointing the right direction. But anyway, just a little tip since
That's
we're
a
right
great
there.
tip. I've never noticed that, but I'm sure subconsciously I've noticed it. That's a great tip. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So one of the key functions for our site is to collect emails, right? So that people can stay in touch with us and we can build that relationship with them. Most of us do that with a lead magnet of some kind. Can you walk us through that process?
Yeah, you bet. A lead magnet or a freebie, or like you said, you want to have something to collect email addresses because, again, people probably aren't going to schedule a call with you right at the beginning. So you want to have that front and center at the top of your website at the very beginning. You get people on your email list, but don't stop there. One of the mistakes that I see is people will put their lead magnet in one place and then never talk about it again. Put it at the top of your website. Put it in the footer, put it on every blog post. If you have blogs on your website, you should have a sidebar that has a picture of your lead magnet that people can click on it there. You should talk about it in the blog post. If you have a blog about, oh, I'm going to say about websites, that you're talking about do's and don'ts for your website, and you have a little download on like planning or something, how to plan your website, or you have like a website audit, put it right there in the blog post that they can do it. You can have on my website, I have in my footer, I have a couple of different freebies, but I have in my footer like a picture of every single one of them. So it is on every single page. But you always want to make sure you're collecting email addresses. That is where your business is going to come from. Most people are going to go to your website, they're going to get the information, they're going to find out about you, but the sales that you make are almost always going to come from your email address. So get every person that gets on your website, your number one goal is to get them on your email address list, to get them in there somewhere.
Because life is so busy. We see and even if I'm interested in something, I'm going to forget in 5 minutes. And certainly 5 days from now, when I'm like, oh, what was that thing? I won't be able to remember who you were or how I found you. I'll actually sometimes I'll go to a site, and even if I don't want the lead magnet necessarily, it might not be something specifically that I'm interested in, but I'm interested in remembering that website as a whole. I'll just sign up for the lead magnet so that it'll come back into my inbox and remind me in a week, and I'll get their
Right.
emails so I can stay in touch with them that way. So yeah, that's so important. And I love the idea of just putting it in the footer, because then it automatically shows up on every page of your site rather than you having to. And then pop-ups too. I mean,
Oh,
if you've
yes.
got a if you've got an email platform that you use like MailChimp or Klaviyo or those guys, they can do pop-ups, or some of the site platforms have pop-up functionality built in, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And pop ups are great. It's kind of nice on a pop up if you can set it to wait like 3 seconds before it comes up, because pop ups are annoying, but they're very effective. Like everybody hates them, but they are really, really effective. But it's really nice if, like, if somebody gets to your website and the pop up's right there, you just click away and you don't even look at it because you haven't had a chance to even look at who they are yet. So if you can delay the pop-up like 3 to 5 seconds, like 5 seconds, right? We have the 5-second rule on the beginning of their website. Delay it about that long and then have it pop up. Or you could have different pop-ups that come up on a related page. If you happen to have two, you don't have to have more than one freebie, but if you did, you could have a freebie, one that pops up on your main page. And then if you have something that's specific to another page, you could have a different pop-up, but give people a second to look at your page before the pop-up, and then they'll be more interested in what it is. They'll be like, oh yeah, I was reading about Christy. Okay, this is really cool. Yeah, let me go ahead and sign up for this. And then they'll go ahead and do it.
Really like if you have it, the capability on your platform for it is the exit intent ones too, where it can tell if you're about to leave the page with your mouse, and then you have a relevant pop-up that comes up and says, "Hey, before you go." I think those are great too, because then
Right. Oh
you're
yeah.
on your way out anyway.
So you may as well sign up for something before you leave. Yeah, those are awesome too. Thanks for that. Those are great.
So what are you I know you've probably got a ton of things that you see working on all of these sites that you're like, "Oh my gosh, what is going on here?" So tell us, what are some of the common mistakes that you see that we should avoid? And if we've got them, if we recognize ourselves in this and we we realize that we have this on our own website, that we should probably go back and have a look at.
Right. You bet. Okay. So let me start with we'll start with the positive, like you
Okay.
want the good news or the bad news. So we'll start with the good news first. A few website do's. Make sure that you're doing this. And a lot of these we talked about. So I'll say them and then, I'll go quick. But make sure that your website is clear and easy to understand. It doesn't do anybody any good if you're just like talking in generalities, if you're whatever, just make sure it's clear and easy to understand. Clear beats clever every single time. If you have a niche statement, which you should have a niche statement, and if not, I know Christy has a podcast on it a few back because I listened to it like not too long ago. Go back and get that. Make sure it's on there. Tell people who you are and what you do. If you help moms with school age kids who want to learn about crafts and activities, say that. I help moms with school age kids who want to learn crafts. Like tell people, but you don't have to be really clever about it. Just be clear. Don't be vague. People don't figure stuff out. I'm sorry, we're all smart, but when we're on the internet, we just want things handed to us. Like, I don't know, that's our culture nowadays. Talk about people's problems and how you solve them. If there's a specific problem you're solving, tell me what that is. Because if you think about it, when you're looking for something, you're looking for a specific solution. So, for my example, when my kids were having some mental health struggles and they were teenagers, I was specifically looking for somebody that worked with teenagers and worked with their specific mental health issue. That's what I was looking for. And when I was looking and the websites are like, we help anybody and I work with all ages and all modalities is the big word. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but okay. And then there's like all these things I'm reading and I was like, nope, nope. I don't know what you're talking about. So nope. Like I just needed somebody just talk to me in English and talk about my problem and say, I can fix this problem. Tell people what problem it is that you solve. So, all right. Then a couple other things we talked about: collect email addresses every single time. Make your website scannable. Instead of big paragraphs, use bulleted items, use bolding. You can change up and use italics, those types of things. Make sure that you're really consistent with your branding. I always tell people before you ever build your website, kind of get your brand guide together. Make your logo, pick your colors, pick your fonts, decide on what that is. And you can change it down the road. Don't spend 5 weeks on this. Just pick something, go for it. And then make sure you're consistent all the way through. Don't pick 12 different colors and change all the fonts to different things. Just pick two and just go for it.
It
And
matters, right? And because you think, oh, it doesn't matter what font I pick and I can change it here and I can change it there. And maybe no one will actually consciously notice it, but unconsciously they notice. They notice if it's consistent. And if it's consistent, not only throughout, but if it's consistent with your branding. If you've got fun fonts and you've got an elegant logo, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel right.
right. And you know what? And what you said is exactly what happens is people look at something and they go, I don't quite know why this feels weird, but it feels weird to me. And they can't figure it out. But it may be because you have, an elegant, like you said, an elegant theme and then some weird font that just doesn't match the tone that you're trying to give. So figure all of that out first and then be consistent. Every single page should kind of look like the other ones. They all want to look the same. And your website should look like your Facebook page, should look like your Instagram, should look like everything that you're doing should all be consistent and look the same. And then people know right off the bat they're in the right place. They're like, oh, yeah, there's April. She's the purples or whatever colors. And they just will mentally, like without even consciously thinking about it, they know they're in the right place and then they don't have to think it. A couple of other tips for you are link your pages to each other. A lot of people don't do this, but if you're on your main page or whatever, and you say a little thing like, if you want to schedule an appointment, contact me, link it to your contact page, link your pages to each other. If you have blog posts or blog articles, link the articles to each other. And that actually helps with the search engine stuff. And this podcast isn't about that, but just link to yourself. It will help you. Is basically what I'm saying. A couple of other things, make sure you've got testimonials, include those. Use easy to read fonts. There are some fonts, especially cursive ones, that are really hard to read. And us women, I don't know what it is about women, but we love our cursive fonts. And there's a lot of websites with cursive fonts, and cursive fonts are okay if you can read them. But again, take that and like show it to somebody who's never read your website and ask them if they know what the word is that you've written in cursive, because some cursive fonts are easier to read than others. Just make sure your fonts are readable. Guys have a really hard time reading cursive fonts. So if your target market is men, just don't use cursive
Or
fonts.
kids, or kids, because now
Kids.
they don't even learn it in school anymore, right? It's like a secret code for kind of, what is it, like 18, 20 plus? So
Mhm.
if you don't want the kids to be able to read it, then maybe use cursive.
Right. You know what? You're right. That's totally true. Yeah. Yeah. My kids can't read cursive at all. It's so funny. A couple of other things. And this is a big one. Make sure your website is mobile optimized. Guaranteed, like 75% of the people looking at your website are looking at it on their phone. They might look at it on a computer down the road, but they're going to be looking at it on their phone. So make sure it looks good on a phone. And one of the big mistakes that I see often with that is when people put words over the top of a picture, you got to make sure you can read the words. So it might look great on a computer, but then when it gets smaller and it goes on a phone, if you can't read the words over the top of then move them down, do something. But just make sure words on top of a picture can be read really well. And you don't want words on somebody's face. Like, we just don't need it to say, "Hi, I'm April" over the top of my face. I just don't put the words there. So make sure it looks good on a mobile. And then the last thing is this is one that people don't really think about, but it's okay to repeat things. Like, for example, your lead magnet, put it on there more than one time. Have it in a pop up, have it in like 12 different buttons, have it on a sidebar, have it in your footer, like have it in lots of different places. Because remember, people are coming to your website from different places and they might come into a different page or not scroll all the way down on one and click over to another. And just don't assume that everybody's reading everything. So give them lots of opportunities to do the things that you really want them to do, either sign up, schedule with you, or, get on your email list. So don't be afraid to repeat things. And then I'll just go over a couple of things to watch out for. We talked about not using the jargon words or making it vague. A couple of other things. Don't make your website all about you. People don't really care. I know that's totally harsh, but they just don't care about you. They want to know if you can help them. So you want to tell your backstory, but make sure that you relate it to them. And what that means is, like, you can talk about, here's where I started and here's how I overcame that. And now I can help you with this problem. And now you're talking to them. So make sure you're talking about them, especially about pages. About pages are like the number 2 read website page. So the number 1 is the homepage. And the second most read page is the about page. But again, your about page really isn't about you. Like, I don't care if you started your business with your grandma 100 years ago and you're the number 1, whatever. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't care about that. How are you going to help me? That's really what I want to know. Like, tell me a little about maybe where you came from and then relate it to me and make it about me, because I'm really selfish and I want to know about me. So,
I didn't know that was the second most read page. That's interesting.
yeah, yeah. And so it's a big one. If you have an about page, and you should, make it work for you. Like, that's a really good page that people, and in the about page is the most read page. Like, people will skim the home page and decide, yes, I'm going to learn more about this person. If they click your about page, they're actually interested in what you have to say and they're going to read it more than scan it. So make what you put there worth something and make it about them. Just remember, it's about them.
Valuable real estate. Okay, noted. I'm going to go back and look at our about us page.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. And then just my very last tip is, don't feel like you have to put everything you do and everything you offer on your website. It's too overwhelming for people. Less is more. So if you do 20 things, pick your top 3. What are the top 3 things that most people are asking you for? What are the top 3 services, and list those? It doesn't mean that people won't ask you about other stuff. It's just too much if you throw everything on there. It's like a buffet. You're like, oh my gosh, this is so big. Well, or have you ever eaten at Cheesecake Factory? Okay, their menu is like ginormous. What is it, like 20 pages or something? I sit there forever and can't decide what I want to eat because I'm like, this is way too long. So just, give me like 3 things and then I can pick something. But if there's too many on there, I'm too overwhelmed. I can't pick anything.
Or even to categorize things. We just actually had a woman I was mentoring, and we were looking at her website, and she had about 30 different things that she offered, and she had them all listed on her homepage. And it was like, wow, you open up the page.
Right.
I can't even read all of these things, never mind decide what I want. So we broke it down and we categorized it. Really, they were 3 different categories of services, and that's what she put on the homepage. And then she broke them
Perfect.
down on a later page. If they click through to that service, then she broke it down kind of more. But it's overwhelming when you get to that homepage and there's, a million things.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's perfect. If you can categorize it and then have like a learn more, and people can go to that page and learn just about all the services in that category, that's perfect. But yeah, otherwise, it's just really overwhelming. And then just the last thing you want to do too, I said the last one was the last one, but I really have one more. Sorry, is just make your website intuitive. A lot of people are trying so hard to be creative and make it look amazing and do all these new cool and fancy things. But remember, when somebody gets there, they're going to look at the top for the navigation. Like, if they want a menu, they're going to look at the top. If they want to contact you, they're going to look for a contact page. There's some things that are intuitive for people. don't hide that stuff. Don't put it in weird places or they can't find it. They get frustrated and they'll just leave your website.
Yeah, right. Any way you can decrease resistance. And that goes with the script fonts, right? The cursive fonts makes it harder to read. They're not going to read as much, or if they can't find the navigation, anything that makes it harder, no matter how cool it is not
Right.
helping.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Those are great tips. That's so much great stuff there to unpack. Thank you so much for that information because that's really useful, especially. And it doesn't matter if we're starting our site for the first time. It's actually great if you're just starting your site because now you can do it right from the get go.
Right.
Fabulous. But I am willing to bet that every single woman entrepreneur that's listening to this has heard something in this podcast and gone, "Ooh, I should."
Right.
I know I heard a
Yeah.
couple that I'm going to go back and look at. So I really, really appreciate that. Now, before we sign off here, one more question for you.
Okay.
And this does not have to be related to websites, or it can be. What is your best piece of advice for newer women entrepreneurs?
My best piece of advice is just to go for it. Like what you want to do, you want to help people. Don't wait. Just jump in, just go for it. And if you're like me, you're kind of a perfectionist and you're like, well, I got to get this done first and I got to get this done first and I got to do this first. And no, you don't. Like you don't. Just go for it. Just put something out there and just go. And you know what? Here's the thing, if you're a perfectionist, you can change stuff. It's okay. What you do on day one doesn't have to be what it looks like a year from now, because the reality is when you start your business, you're kind of putting a hypothesis out there. You're kind of saying, I'm pretty sure this is what I want to do and I'm pretty sure this is my niche statement, but let me put it out there and test it and see what feedback I get from people that I talk to, from people actually going to my website, from people that I'm working with, and then make adjustments along the way. My business doesn't look anything today like it did 3 years ago or even 1 year ago. It's always kind of adapting and changing as I see what people react to and what they don't. So the only way you're going to find out what's working for you is to put something out there and see if it's working for you. So don't hesitate. Count down 3, 2, 1, and just go. Just go for it.
That is great advice because so much learning in the doing of it, right? Love that.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, April has, which is absolutely perfect if you are listening today and you've got some website planning, website tweaking that you want to do. April has a free mini course on planning your website with worksheets and a planning guide download and all of those things. So she's got that for us for free, which is amazing. Thank you, April. And it's right on her site. What is the site, April? Give it to us now, and then I'll also put it in the show notes.
All right, you bet. It's really creative. It's aprilhyatt.com. And Hyatt is spelled Hiatt. So it's April, just like the month, Hyatt. But I'll tell you one other little trick. If you have a name like mine where people often spell it wrong, buy both domains. So really, if you typed my name wrong, April Hyatt, Hyatt, it would just take you to the real place. So yeah, aprilhyatt.com.
And you just set up a redirect. That is clever.
Yes.
I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna add that to my notes. So we're gonna put that in the show notes as well. So you don't have to remember that. It will be in the show notes. But if you're on a platform where you can't see the show notes, you can also always go to our podcast website, which is the same as the name as the podcast. It's onestepempire.com. The episode, the links, all the good stuff is there. All the other episodes are there. So onestepempire.com. It is there for you 24/7. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, April. I really, really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. This was great.